On today's show, we're talking about defense military again. So this is our Seb's favorite topic, and Max is having a go. This is hot off the press, as you were just saying. And also, artificial intelligence versus human stupidity. Which one wins?
I don't know, there's some really stupid AI out there.
Seb, you look like you're about to lose it. You look like you're about to snap. Like, you always look a little depressed behind the blue screen, but the screen like is taking over your entire face. He is the editor, the very energetic and passionate editor of DCD.
I'm giving up on reality. We're going to talk about a company later today that is just so fundamentally stupid on so many levels.
DCD, by the way. We're not talking about DCD.
Maybe. Unlike DCD, this company is apparently worth $1 billion. It has done nothing so far other than take some photos of developing nation people.
Their eyeballs, by the way.
Yeah, their eyeballs. It is profoundly stupid, but that's all I'm going to say. Keep listening.
Great, but by the way, this is the part where we introduce it. This is the part when we talk about our week. I love how you just tease us into that story because this shows
I'm future focused. I'm a tech journalist.
You pretty much accused them of being about to kind of like to take a shotgun to the office and start murdering people. That was your
I did not. That's not what I said. That's not remotely what I said.
Why is it every episode I have to get the lawyers involved?
And you just heard from the man who had a Pikachu on his lap for the majority of the night. He is reporter of AI Business, Ben Wadecki.
Hello, everyone. My apologies if for yet another episode I sound bad. I have a slightly croaky throat, having played football and watched football this week. A lot of shouting, a lot of hollering. So, yeah, apologies.
The one time you play football, you're going to make sure everybody knows about it. We don't need to hear this. Okay, you work out, okay, for the first time this year.
Ben is working to attract a very important demographic of football lads. So, yeah, don't knock it.
Hey,
we need
do you like football? Hey, do you like football? Do you want to watch Star Trek episode with me? My favorite one? On my couch?
It works 60% of the time. Across 1,000%.
But 100% of the time, nobody called back. 100%. Okay, and of course, rounding up is Maximal X, our global editor of AI Business, who's not going anywhere.
Totally, I'm glued to the chair. Yes. This week is actually good because there's no international scandals. There's no kind of like crises. So we can talk about something like that's a little bit funny. We can talk about how your human stupidity versus AI, but. We're still going to kick off with something that hits hard and fast and is probably going to be a problem for a lot of people somewhere far away.
And before you jump into it, let me just say my name also as the editor, the creator of this podcast, Tian, the senior video producer of Informa Tech, the machine that keeps on churning out podcasts. Churning.
You can hear the pride in his voice, like a real craftsman here.
All right, so let's get into our first story, Max. You're quite excited about this. We're back to, for long-term listener, this is who enjoy our defense episode. This is your time to get your popcorn.
So yeah, long-time listeners of the podcast and readers of the website might have noticed that we are somewhat obsessed with the adoption of AI by the military-industrial complex. And it's just like we don't have any advertisers in this business, so you could ask us, so why are we looking at defense so and watch it so carefully? That's because it's moving at breakneck pace.
Because we're sick.
Yes, because because military has virtually unlimited budgets, and because military can do weird stuff that sounds good and has been, like, especially if we're talking about the U.S. military, like DARPA has been doing this for years and years and years. And the latest development that we got word of this week is U.S. Army is not just testing unmanned tanks; it is plans for an entire robotic tank unit. And to the best of our knowledge, this is going to be the only such robotic tank unit in the world. So Americans are treading kind of like new ground. This hasn't been tried anywhere else in the world. Everybody has a couple of these machines, like everybody has perhaps automated one of their tanks, but having an entire unit and running war games, because that's the next stage. That's what they're going to do. They're going to run war games involving multiple robotic tanks.
So if you
And-
think that you're gonna wait for the guy to come off the top of the tank and you can just kill him and then dismantle the tank, think again.
I mean, killing a tank is very difficult at the best of times. Yes.
But the thing is, so I want to dispel this for the listeners. For those who think it's some kind of futuristic tank that can, I don't know, float, that has sensors on it. No, these are simply retrofitted M113 armored personnel vehicles. So they're not even, you think like your giant Shermans or whatever. These are just retrofitted with some autonomous systems that enable unmanned operations. It's not something futuristic. It's not something out of Battlefield 2042 like we talked about on a previous pod. These are just they're just slapping off-the-shelf systems into armored vehicles for use. And okay, they seem to have worked. Like there's been demonstrations previously, I think last year in Colorado. And obviously they're working towards this. It's not just in the military as well, in defense, in armed forces. The Navy is doing a lot with drone technology. They're doing a lot in that space, unmanned shipping. So yeah, the US are really splashing the cash on this.
Obviously, the question would become, and this is my favorite Fox News question to ask, where does it stop? So if that technology can be applied to an old piece of machinery, right? So so this will happen to a lot of other military devices?
We first have to define the technology, because there's several ways America can go with this, and it's remote control. I mean, if you think very basic, like a remote control car, equally same process, remote control tank, very psychologically easy, but it means that the networking and the brains are outside the vehicle and are being beamed in, which is great because the tank is therefore less fragile from being hit. There's not a server spinning inside that if it gets disrupted, it kills the tank, but it means that there's line of sight issues or connection issues that another enemy could disrupt, especially if we're talking about fighting a country like China. If we move it inside, then that means we don't have those connection issues, but we have the fragility and we have the processing. How much can you actually fit in there? But the beauty is right now, tanks are designed with this big flaw, and that's that there's these fleshy humans that even if the blast doesn't get through, the concussion can cause all kinds of issues. Realistically, to truly take advantage of this, we need a ground-up design vehicle, and that's still a way off, and I'm sure there'll be many ludicrously large contracts that will balloon way past project costs and deadlines and provide something that's actually using antiquated technology by the time it comes out, just like the US fighter plane programs. America's been relatively slow to embrace remote control tanks, actually. They were kind of faffing around with legged machines, which is silly because legs are very fragile.
Well, you say silly, I say cool, but
yes,
go on.
cool.
They
but
can
not.
look. Luke Skywalker took it down with some rope. All right.
Yeah, ropes can take them out. Whereas Russia has always been a nation that's had to be more circumspect about how it uses money and technology because it's a much poorer, less technologically advanced nation, but a very tank-based nation. So they've been experimenting with remote control tanks for a long time, and have actually had some in combat in Syria. The Uran 9 tank, which was out in Syria, but again, they went with the idea of having remote control, not AI, people having to control it from outside the system. But in a crazy battlefield scenario, that meant they had to get really close to the tanks, within 400 meters, which means that they're just not in a tank in a battlefield.
So they're just right behind.
Just walking along.
So it has not been great for them. Admittedly, this is like Russia essentially beta testing on the battlefield, and somewhere like Syria is a bit easier to do that, both because Russia's not at loss of losing their nation if they die there, and also it's not as technologically advanced competitor as like again if they went against China. They expect to have kind of better systems rolling on the streets of probably Latvia by 2025 is when they hope to have more advanced remote
It's about time to take it back.
Yeah.
A war with Russia in the Baltics has been predicted for a while. Hasn't happened. Knock on wood. Terrifying prospect. But I would like to just add two facts to this. So basically, you said absolutely there are vehicles developed from the ground up, and we know who's making them. It's basically at least several contracts are with BAE Systems, which is the UK. General Dynamics.
BAE. Yeah.
Yes, General Dynamics, because obviously, and something called Oshkosh Defense. No, I have no idea where these guys are best.
They are based, I believe they are from Wisconsin. Go Badgers! Because Oshkosh, Wisconsin. That's me pulling that out of my hat there.
Never heard of it.
They make beautiful light utility / combat multi-role vehicles. Google tells me.
Okay.
And another thing is just like, who's actually doing this? Because I think, yeah, it's very, very interesting. U.S. Army Futures Command has a next-generation combat cross-functional team. And those are the people tasked with looking into this and kind of like reimagining how the sort of like, the battlefield of the future is going to look like. So, like, this is very, very serious stuff. Obviously, lots of money spent there. We have no idea how big these contracts are, but they must be humongous. But, Tian, I think you've asked a question in the very beginning. Where does it stop? And I honestly don't think it stops until there's 0 people on the battlefield.
I thought you said 0 people on the planet. Or that.
It's an endless money sink because it can never stop. Let's assume it all goes well. They create a autonomous tank full of sensors that can go onto a battlefield, distinguish between enemy and enemy civilians, as they are classified as combatants, even though they're civilians by the US government. It doesn't matter, because very soon afterwards the competitor nation will develop a thing that will be able to trick those sensors or blind those sensors. So it's just going to be a constant cat and mouse game of constantly upgrading sensors and ways these AI interpret the world, and equally fighting the other guy's version of that. So it can never end. It's just a constant updating. Hopefully they won't actually be fighting each other.
I mean, nobody want to predict this, but like, are we like going to see like a automatic tank battle like anytime soon? Like potentially that's what would end. Like how the whole drone being deployed was that they're unmanned, right? So it's much easier for them to make a decision knowing that no U.S. personnel will get hurt. And it's almost like they don't, in a recent example of Afghanistan, it's really like they don't really care. They say they do, but they don't really care. They kill civilians. The decision process become very easily and just one button and like, oh, boom, it's over.
And I think tanks are also very easy for governments to get away with. So there's been a lot of mass media coverage of Ghost Robotics, who have like a Boston Dynamics style robot dog, and they put a gun on the top of it like everyone knew they would. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is super dystopian. Whereas if you just see a tank and you go, oh, this tank doesn't have people in it, it feels much less dystopian. It's much easier for a nation to have a fleet of these go into a battle and kill people without it creating the same amount of condemnation and attention as a bunch of very futuristic looking robot dogs going in and shooting up a village.
They didn't just put a gun on the Ghost Dynamics on a dog. They put a 6.7mm sniper rifle. It's like an 8-year-old kid has just glued,
you have to be accurate.
Imagined it.
You have to be accurate.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It is absolutely baffling. And the one I wanted to pick up on this because Tien, you said about will there be an automated tank battle? My argument is no, because the sister countries that are developing it, you mentioned Russia, China, and America, the big three, that means they would have to get into war with one another, because at the rate things are going, I don't see a Pakistan developing one anytime soon. Now, obviously, Russia is trying to align itself with the Afghanistan government at the moment, whether you acknowledge them as the Afghanistan government. So who knows? Maybe they could, but I don't personally feel we'll see this for.
But unfortunately, usually say when they funnel down, right? When they funnel down to those, it will become. Did you sip like a glass of wine there?
I'm drinking water out of a wine glass to feel fancy.
This is how you drink water. Okay, Ben, you never cease to surprise me. But yeah, when they funnel down to like a Middle Eastern country or whatever, that's when it happens. Like one guy, one military cell to another, and then. Yeah, who cares?
So you're saying like kind of like Pakistan getting nukes, like.
Yeah, we'll see smaller versions of this. So obviously we'll see the larger nations use them against smaller nations that don't have automated things. But you see right now in Syria, in Afghanistan, the adoption of personal use drones by insurgents, and it's very, very effective. The fascinating thing is that, like Max said at the beginning, the military is worth watching always, even if you don't really care about that kind of stuff, because of the money they throw at things. But that money can't ever compete with focused consumer excitement. So the US government has spent tons and tons on cameras and camera miniaturization, laid a lot of the groundwork. But the minute smartphones became popular, the way cameras have improved has been massive. And equally, the US government was spending a lot of money on huge drones. And then the minute consumer drones started picking off, that technology outpaced the American government, it outpaced the military. And now the military is having to catch back up and borrow from consumer tech.
Yeah.
What a sigh.
And perhaps the silver lining is that it's my tax money. That's being...
Yeah, it's your tax money.
That's
The
a lot
vast
of money.
majority, Yeah, money that could be spent on fixing climate change and therefore reducing the actual chance of future wars and resource conflicts.
Or just the local lunch program.
Or your local lunch program.
Or Tien's third house.
Or Tien's third. Well, it's one of those things where, speaking at like a rational level, with previous wars and the way we cover wars in the media is very much focused on the human side of things. And it's very much X number of American soldiers died, American contractors, here's pictures of their bodies being brought home, American flag draped on it. It's very visceral, and stuff like that can help lead to people saying maybe we shouldn't do this war, maybe we should rethink things. Whereas we don't really give as much focus or emotional impact towards the trillions that is being spent, and therefore the amount of death that is caused as a result of that money not being spent on services. So if we have robotic tanks that don't cause death of the country fielding the tanks, it's a lot harder for civilians to be against the wars that may or may not be waged correctly.
If you think that's heavy, think again. We teased that in the intro, so we're discussing a couple more of a sillier story, but silly, but also can lead to like I don't know. Seb will tell you all about it. What it can lead to, the end of
there is a
humanity.
death in this.
There's always death.
This should just be the death of the death episode.
Let's talk about fantastic companies. Who remembers Looped?
What the
Like,
the one that would go around the world?
Lubed. Like
Looped,
sliding
not
really
looped.
easily.
No, looped, not looped.
The one, the like hyperlink.
So Looped, founded in 2005, is the creation of Sam Altman, and this is what he's known for. This is his great business, created in 2005, raised some money, and then shut down in 2012 for its low user base. But he managed to sell it off before then and get a bit of money. And then from that illustrious career, he managed to jump into Y Combinator, which really rode the no matter what you invest in Silicon Valley, it's probably going to grow in value even if it doesn't make any money. Trend. It's a kind of it doesn't make sense, but it works. And he was able to ride that for ages, and then as part of that kind of glommed on to OpenAI, and now is the CEO of OpenAI as it's kind of dropped its non-profit illusions and is now just a massively for-profit
Again,
company.
having no background in AI or any discernible skills in AI.
None of that, yeah. But he's not happy with just that. He wants more. He wants to change the world because that's what
wants
Silicon
more
Valley
attention.
tells you have to do.
Wants more eyeballs.
And he wants more. So introduce WorldCoin, right? Imagine all the glory of cryptocurrency in its massively logical and clearly stable and environmentally friendly glory, and add in a global surveillance network that requires a £5 orb.
What, £5? Not 5 British pounds, but five items of mass.
£5. It's a huge. It is bigger than my head. It's about the size of Ben's head. It's a giant chrome orb with a camera on it, and the idea is you shove it in the face of someone, and it scans their eyeball, hopefully consensually, and it converts that eyeball into a numeric code, and then it will check if they are a WorldCoin user or not. And if they're not,
Seb, I'm done.
They get WorldCoin. No, it's not over yet. There's more. It's already this company, which is only just launched as of 2 hours ago, is worth $1 billion, having raised money from a rogues gallery of classic investors such as Andreessen Horowitz, Reid Hoffman, and Coinbase, of course. They're already in like Indonesia. They're in developing nations, putting this giant orb in people's faces and saying, "Don't worry, you'll get money out of it." That money, by the way, does not exist yet, and we have nothing you can buy with that money. It is a WorldCoin that you currently can only get by giving them your eyeball, and then only spend it on other people's eyeballs. I don't know. There is nothing you can use it for.
How do I invest?
So one eyeball equals one WorldCoin. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Wait, but is it?
So Ben, you have two.
Is there a new
millionaire.
cryptocurrency underpinning it, or is it more like a hardware wallet? Like, do they actually plan to launch a currency?
The currency is WorldCoin, and the company is WorldCoin, and the orb is called the Orb, and that's
not ominous.
Yeah, and that's about it. And I like it. You might need one of these giant orbs if you're trying to buy something with your eye, in which case everyone would need to have a giant orb. Which
do you reckon? So do you have to carry it around? Could you get like stylish papooses to put it in and carry it around? Like,
it's about the size of a bowling ball. I figured out the perfect.
It's too big. It's too big to carry.
It's a large bowling ball. And
but I assume you carry that information with your eyeball information, right?
Currently, only WorldCoin, the company, has the orbs and is going around the world, orbing people's eyes.
Harvesting. Let's call it harvesting.
Harvesting. They say they can orb the eyes of 700 people per week per orb. And they're in South America, Asia, Africa, and Europe.
Do you say orb as verb?
I don't think I've ever heard the word orb said.
I will orb you.
Much.
And the idea is to orb every single person in the world. And then so 80% of the total WorldCoin coins will be given out to users during that orbing, and then they'll keep 10% for themselves for the WorldCoin company, and 10% will go to the investors. But then they wanted to make it the world currency. So presumably, let's say this all goes well and it's a world currency, then 10% of the world currency would be owned by one company.
For essentially nothing. They essentially printed it for themselves because why the hell not, you know?
Yeah. So
I think we just need to kill this like baby Hitler. We gotta kill it in its infancy. We gotta make sure.
I think this kind of speaks to what we spoke about in previous episodes, which is we are in a period of insane investment frenzy, and you see it across the wider market with like NFTs and a bajillion cryptocurrencies.
NFT.
Yeah, do you
remember that?
And Facebook sunglasses.
Facebook sunglasses, which you can't wear while you're trying to get your orb money. So is incompatible.
Or if you're trying to get laid, Ben.
Yeah.
These aren't Facebook sunglasses, by the way. They're £4 from Amazon.
So
other sunglasses are available.
I just wanted to share this company because it's so offensively stupid. And it's got a lovely write-up in TechCrunch where they seem to think it's great. So
well, let me get this straight.
It does speak to our human condition.
We're burning a lot of bridges this episode.
So they take a giant silver orb to developing countries where harvesting the eyes of people who've never heard about cryptocurrency, don't lack even the basic capacity to understand what cryptocurrency is, paying them money for harnessing images, paying them imaginary monopoly money for harnessing the image of their eyeballs.
I will just say, they don't harvest your eyeballs, as you said, Max. They harvest an image of your eyeballs. They don't go around to Indonesia and rip out people's eyes.
No, it's okay. They say it's not an image because it's just the code that represents the eye. which is absolutely absurd because you could say that about any data that's not actual film.
Well, any picture on the computer is an image represented as code.
Correct.
What if you don't
It's
have
probably
eyes?
backward. It's probably backward
Oh,
compatible.
so
to
yeah,
the
if
eyeball.
you are
Yeah.
disabled or don't have eyes, that's a great point. Then you're not able to take part in the new global currency. If you create a currency that's based on having a certain body part, and you say this is for everybody in the world, there's always going to be some people that do not have those body parts. So it's kind of stupid.
Fingerprint recognition is useless if you don't have fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the body part is not even the point. The point is, why would we want this?
Yeah.
And whoever thought this is a good idea?
We've gone from killer tanks to not having a nose in like an hour.
But
they hope to create thousands of these orbs per month. The currency itself is its own currency, but it's built on top of Ethereum. They say, Bitcoin isn't scalable. We realize Bitcoin has its problems.
And how is this scalable?
So Ethereum is less environmentally destructive than Bitcoin, but it's still massively environmentally destructive.
Speaking
if
of
you
which,
then
how much
add in tons of orbs.
Speaking of Ethereum,
I want to see how many times I can say orb. Just.
I think you just made the world record. Actually,
Do you think they should team up with Palantir so they can actually have the Palantir orb?
Dude, they're probably best friends. Altman and
Sam
what's his
Altman
name?
and Peter Thiel are incredibly close.
Of course, which
so
makes the whole thing even funnier.
Yeah. And like Sam Altman was one of the people that like publicly came out and supported Peter Thiel when Peter Thiel was really pro Donald Trump.
Friend of the pod.
And both have a certain libertarian mindset, which is very pro destroying global government-backed currencies for quite obvious reasons. And this is exactly one of the things when you say, who is this for? This is a product that makes sense if you're a billionaire or an aspiring billionaire, and you don't want government interference, you don't want any form of currency control. It makes sense. If you're
this is
someone just trying to
attempt to create like a new world order.
Yeah, I mean, if we take a look to Peter Thiel again, obviously, when he created PayPal, when he was one of the people behind PayPal, he openly pitched it as a way of destroying government-backed currencies. Ultimately, it turned into just an eBay program. But the idea was, how do we create something that gets around international sanctions, which is why like the early version of PayPal was very popular in sanctioned nations. This is a long-term aim of himself and a set of people who see an orb and think, this is incredible, while everyone else looks at an orb and just goes, what?
Somebody else builds it's just like some billionaires build phallic objects, and some billionaires are clearly kind of in the ball territory, like the balls.
So bringing it back to WorldCoin for one final thing. But I think this is again like something we have to think about when we assume that they're going to be successful and this is going to be the currency of the future. They have obviously not been very transparent about it. Previously, this is the first public official announcement. Bloomberg did some early reporting on it, which they were very unhappy about. How many people have they scanned the eyeballs of with a currency that they have not told anyone about, using technology that they have not shown to anyone, and a privacy system that we have no real understanding of? How many do you think have they done already?
Hundreds of thousands?
I want to say 10 million.
No, 100,000 people have had their eyes scanned.
Have been orbed.
Have been orbed.
You got orbed.
Yeah, they've
twice.
their souls consumed by the orb for reasons unknown. And it just fills me with such an existential dread. And this company will be able to keep raising money for a long time before the bottom falls out, before anyone's like, but there's no real sustainable business. The best they can hope for is speculation-based currency manipulation, like with most cryptocurrencies, but it's never going to be a global currency.
I do wonder if this is just a long con to just collect a bunch of freaking eyeballs. Yeah. If it's not going to lead to anything significant. At the end, what are they going to do with all the information? I think that's the part when, what if they just sell them to somebody, to another company?
Imagine Facebook is probably sat there licking or whatever they're going to be called by the time this pod goes out.
Well, because
they're probably licking their lips.
Think about this. the security, the TSA security agency wanted the service called Clear. It's a private company that offers it, and essentially it scans your eyes.
The UK wanted something similar. Yeah, it was not very practical. Basically, the whole system got canned because it just caused delays.
I thought it was going to go away, but it's still popular in parts of America.
The gates used to get into airports, I have a very slightly lazy eye. It takes me about 30 minutes to get through. So, the system aren't good enough and at the moment, and to say that this will fail, who knows? If it can't work.
It was a good time to mention it because here we are at the beginning of this WorldCoin, and it's just like, it will be interesting to see how it's going to play out. So long-time listeners of the podcast, we're definitely going to continue reporting on it. Is it 100% AI? No. Is it an interesting technological story that illustrates where we are as a human community? Yeah.
And does that make Sam hate everything about tech and human nature? Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you remember when the show was 20 minutes long?
Well, I think the valuable lesson is if you see an orb, we need to teach people how to break it, how to destroy that orb when you see it.
If you see an orb, run.
Smash, yes, run and cover it with a piece of cloth and then drag it into the Thames. Toss it. I assume you'll sink.
I'm gonna see my father for the first time in 3 years. He's coming here on his birthday, which
I thought you were gonna say the first time ever.
No. So my father's birthday is legit on Halloween, 31st of October. He's coming over for 3 days. I haven't seen him for 3 years, and generally he's having a bit of a rough patch. So it's gonna be an interesting experience. A lot of hand holding, a lot of kind of like drunk conversations about the state of him.
But I didn't ask Max.
Yeah, no one asked.
He's just upset because my dad's had the most dad focus on the pod.
Yeah, it's been a lot of
dad envy, absolutely.
There's been a lot of Simon on this pod.
All right, and on that note, we wish you a very good rest of the week, and we're going to be online again next week, invariably, and we're going to try to procure an orb to show you. Sign up, Sam.
Please don't show me your orb.